Yo, what's up, guys? This is ENTP Nurture, where we use typology to solve real problems. Now, let's understand decider function. What does it mean? This week, we are typing a person called Aaron Alexander. Now, let me define what decider is. Decider basically means that person is very, very balanced with observer stuff. What I mean by observer, missing information, control chaos, systems, things. He's very balanced with that, okay? But when it comes to people, when it comes to himself and others, he has major issues. His life would be struggling on, trying to find where I belong in the tribe or trying to find who my tribe is. That's the IP and the EJ thing. But decider basically is people for problem. But decider basically is people problem. What do I mean by problem? They feel stuck. They feel like they cannot do anything. They feel like a tiger trapped in a cage, right? Helpless. That is decider. They have problem between themselves, their identity, and others, the collective. So I found a wonderful clip of Byron Katie asking Alexander, "Yo, what are your biggest problems? Where did you feel that you got stuck?" And he replies this.
A couple of questions for you. So what most bothers you?
Well,
about life.
Something that's, I think, a big part of this is probably pretty vulnerable. I'm pretty sure at some point I probably mentioned this, but a big part of, from my observation of myself, one of the reasons that I've reached out into like the social media world and create a platform that I can communicate to people, a lot of that is to create support and network and tribe. And so that could be kind of like a deeper manifestation of feeling maybe a little bit unsafe or insecure and maybe alone. So there's always a reason that people swim down these different pathways. And I think that might be something for me that I still continue to tackle on a regular basis.
Okay. So tackle what?
Tackle's not the right word. Sit with.
Sit with.
It's a better word.
But sit with what?
She's thinking.
I guess it's got to come from you, but you look so comfortable and you do so much good in the world. And then there are those moments when you're thinking and believing something that would rob you of that true nature consciousness. And I don't know, what concept would you come up with, Aaron? Or say it's a little more. So you started the podcast, and because
a story that I've explored, and it could be a fine part of the story, is I had some my father ended up going to prison, and when I was like 17 or so, and he was in a pretty like a extremely dark place, and it was like drugs and prostitution, a lot of really interesting things. And so potentially the story that I could continue kind of pondering on would be that put me in a place of feeling like the world could fall out from underneath you at any time.
Yeah, after this, he talks about the same thing. Now, the step number 1 when you're trying to type in OPS system is to find a savior state or demon state. Demon state is what I'm talking about, feeling uncomfortable. Like you saw just now, he was hesitating. He was like telling, yo, this is something I never shared before. Maybe I shared once. Yo, this is very deep, dark secrets that I'm holding and I'm like sharing. And he's very comfortable with it. And this guy has worked a lot on himself. So mostly whenever you're typing in OPS, you're supposed to track their demon state, step number 1. Step number 2, in demon state, what are they like talking about? Is their problem revolving around people, or is their problem revolving around things, server crashing, business, some system failing, whatever, right? So in that demon state, what are they really talking about? Now, this is the only clip I saw where this guy's actually in demon state. Remaining all clips, this guy's like super balanced, super chill, which makes him very hard to type. However, here he talks a lot about, people problems. He's like, yo, my father, my tribe. Later he talks about connection. We shall see a clip. Now, before I actually play this clip, let me just tell you about not play last. Notice throughout this entire video, he's very, very comfortable pinging off the tribe. Like if this guy throws a ball at him, he's throwing a ball at him. It's very easy to have a conversation with him and he's very flowy, right? So not play last. He's able to play. So he's not play last. That's something you just keep in mind. And notice throughout, our major goal in this video is to see decider stuff and sensory analogy. Let's go.
And this, or like the subjunctive form of language that doesn't even exist in every language. Like Vietnamese, they don't actually even have like the I would have.
Really?
Yeah, if I was there, I would have done this. That's all bullshit. It's all nonsense. You weren't, you didn't do it, so fuck off. Stop thinking about it. It's over. It's like it's a non-conversation.
Yeah.
I would have done. There's no words beyond that.
Wow.
You didn't. Here we are.
Right.
It's like very self and tribe thingy. Like you didn't, I did, yo, this, me, you conversation, right?
There's nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
And so it's within that. If you bring your attention into where you're at, all that would have stuff, it just falls off. I mean, it should have fallen off, in the creation of the English language, but. If you're paying attention to what's happening, would have just goes away, and then all of a sudden you don't just spin your wheels in nonsense.
And the mindfulness is the tool for real.
I was abused by my whoever, my uncle or my dad or my mom or whatever. I was in whatever the scenario is. If you can come to a place of like, well, because of that, I got interested in this podcast stuff, or I started reading a lot more and learning about things. And I decided to travel because I need to get the fuck out of that house. And then I went to Italy and I met this girl. And it was great. It's like, if you can start to come into that place of really, truly loving every square centimeter of your existence, your physical body, and also.
So again, he was talking about people abusing him versus me. That is very, very decider talk, like you, me. And honestly, in my entire video, I watched many hours of him. I didn't notice any observer freak out at all. Just people. Okay.
By all of the sensational.
This is actually a podcast that he was talking alone about COVID-19, which is very interesting. So let's see what he says, So what should you do during this crisis?
Media stuff, I will just have a community movement which boosts immunity by you connecting with people. That's one of the best ways that you can actually boost your immune system, is to feel a part of a tribe, feel connected. So we thrive in community. So in this time, it's interesting. It's ironic. One of the worst things you can do for our immune system is isolation, and taking us out from being able to connect with each other. So during this time more than ever, I think it is immensely valuable that we are reaching out to people that we love, reaching out to people that we maybe even haven't seen for a long time. Another opportunity, because that's the lens that we can practice seeing all this through. An opportunity of this is you have a free pass to reach out to really anybody from your past and just send them a little message and say, hey, how are you doing through all this craziness? Is there anything that I can do to support you? Is there anything that I can do to help? How can I be there for you right now? That's a pretty cool thing. Like that's a huge present gift from situations like this, is it gives you a free pass to reach out to all sorts of people that you might have not seen for years, or you might want to be maybe doing some business networking, whatever thing, and you can reach out to those folks and just say, hey, like, how can I help? How can I be there for you? And then when the dust settles from all of this stuff, you have a list of, maybe you reached out to 100 people during this time frame. Those 100 people will remember that, like, oh yeah, right. You reached out and said, how can I help during that time? So that's going to pay big dividends long term. In the end, we are a hive. We are community-based creatures. And so everything that you can do to give back to your community in these moments, now's the time. Now's not the time to be overly selfish. Now's not the time to be, you want to close off in the sense of...
Yeah, this is a beautiful message. Especially during a time like this, it's better to reach out and build up that cookies. Get those cookies, you know what I mean? In this clip, he's going to talk about some decider plus sensory analogy. Sensory analogy basically means that he's actually talking about the actual thing. As in, whatever he's talking about, you can go touch it, feel it, etc. Now, an intuitive analogy would be something more abstract. Let's say, I believe, reality is like a hologram. Now, is reality actually a hologram? No. I'm just using that as like a analogy, a abstract analogy. But whenever he uses sensory analogy, he's actually talking about thing. Like if he says grass, he's actually talking about an actual grass. He's not like meaning it metaphorically or philosophically or anything. He's talking about an actual grass, actual weed, actual windows, thing. He's actually talking about the thing. That's just sensory analogy.
This is a time that, I went for a hike a couple days ago, and you see some people are like, they seem pretty good, but a lot of people are like not stoked, and so what happens, because we attune to each other's facial gestures, we attune to each other's temperament, we're literally tuning each other's nervous systems. So if someone's doing in a not good way, it's an opportunity for you to be uplifting with them, and then that will send a cascade of them impacting the next person that they connect into. Compassion, love, connection, empathy, all that stuff is contagious. It's all contagious. Sickness is contagious. Love is contagious. Light is contagious. All the good things are contagious, just the way that all the bad things are contagious. And then the next thing,
here he talks about a sensory analogy, and notice when he's actually talking about the analogy, he's actually talking about the stuff.
An interesting analogy that I gathered in the book, King, how do they call it? King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. That's how it goes. Really great book. Highly recommend that. In there, it's referring to how our conscious mind, or the way that we occupy our lives, the manifestation of our reality, is being governed by an invisible force that is our subconscious. And the analogy they use in that is thinking of like metal filings on top of a piece of paper, and we see the metal filings, and then having a magnet or magnets below the paper guiding the direction of the filings. As long as we're focusing on the visible part, the filings themselves, and forgetting about the invisible aspect from below that's actually guiding the whole system, we will likely be working on an uphill battle for a long time. So that is the challenge for you.
Notice when he used that analogy, it was a sensory analogy, meaning he was actually talking about a magnet and a paper above that, and metal filings, the iron filings, and the magnet like creating the pattern. It wasn't philosophical, it wasn't metaphorical. He was actually talking about like this real magnet. You put under this thing, it like creates this real stuff, right? That is sensory analogy. Let me show you guys another clip.
Live in some imaginary land inside of our minds. Tony Robbins has an interesting analogy with that. With if you have weeds in your garden, you don't just visualize there's no weeds. You go out and pick the fucking weeds. But while you're picking those weeds, you can have the conscious choice of the channel in which your mind is occupying as you're picking them. You can pick those weeds and say, "Oh, these damn weeds," and "Oh man, I shouldn't be doing this, and this is so hard, and oh my god, why me? And you get deeper and darker and more contracted and more stuck in your own thought patterns, and then that becomes contagious to the people around you. Or you can be grateful to be experiencing this fascinating time in human history and go outside or inside and quarantine yourself in this case and pick those damn weeds. So very powerful.
So look, the philosophical aspect of it is really beautiful. However, the sensory analogy here, he was actually talking about picking the weeds. Like he was actually talking you going outside, picking the weeds, and you actually having the state of the mind of, and your perspective on how you view picking the weeds as, you can't just sit in the thing. He was actually talking about real weeds that grow in garden. It wasn't metaphorical or abstract. Now let me play you guys some decider clips, and now let me play you guys some decider clips.
I notice it all the time. I notice it like this morning.
Oh, interesting.
Moments that aren't serving me. I mean, something that I'm in the process of working with is intimacy, especially with women.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I'm really good at like turbocharged rapid rapport building with people. People probably think I'm an asshole a lot of times too, but pretty regularly I can find connection with somebody really quick.
Yep.
But then within going into deeper layers, I find myself kind of like sabotaging relationships in a sense of all of a sudden, her lips are too big, or her butt's too this way, or she talks too much or too little or whatever. And I'm observing those things as being, I think, little like, kind of like protective mechanisms to kind of shut me down from going in a deeper layer with myself with another person.
That's interesting.
So he's talking about the struggle he's having with women, and how he like creates these boundaries, which unrealistic expectations that nobody can keep, just to protect himself, right? Another decider clip.
And just to be like truly a really impactful place on earth.
Right.
Like it's freaking beautiful.
Yes.
I don't know how you cut it. Spirits everywhere.
Everywhere. Right. Like you said, the cup could be spirit.
Cup,
or
damn,
right.
Spirit.
So wait, how long have you been doing this?
So bodywork specifically about 10 years, and then working with clients, it's been 15 years.
And then, how did you get it? Did you get into it because you were feeling out of touch with your body?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. So I started off, the way I describe in the book is like a confused baby giraffe body, like crooked teeth and a bowl cut and like the whole 9 yards. It could be traumatic.
Right.
Yeah.
That's slightly traumatic. Yeah.
It could be traumatic.
Yeah.
And then there was like some more random things where like my kind of family home environment got kind of funny, and then which I think added more protection.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of, upon like writing all this stuff out, realizing more how that I think was a really amazing, like crucial component to starting to be interested in how my physical situation is a representation of my mental situation. So if you go through something in your life where you feel like, oh wow, it's chaos and it's just like I can't keep control.
Right.
Typically you'll find control somewhere else, and that might manifest itself as like excessive, just like pounding weights and protein smoothies,
right,
as a means of building up the fortress.
Right.
So I did that
to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I taught other people essentially because.
Cool. So let's conclude this video by a very, very powerful thing that he said that really resonated with me, and I was like, whoa, that is really strong. And that comes from.
He is a dance and a dream and a game and something that you can, no matter what the situation is. Like Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning is a very obvious example of this, where he was a fella that was placed into all sorts of concentration camps, and he was the creator of logotherapy, and he had his logotherapy manuscript that he had written, and then the Nazis took that away from him, and he lost his family and was beaten and was starving and was moved from place to place, and then rewrote his whole logotherapy thing on toilet paper, I believe. And throughout that, his whole thesis around that was that you can change your perception, you can change your vision of a thing, but you have no control over the thing itself. So as we're in this scenario, I think it is another interesting challenge that we can examine of how can we start to change our perception of the situation and acknowledge that you don't have control of your environment. Really don't. You can shuffle some things around, but then there's that underlying magnetic force in the form of, in this case, a little microscopic bug that can change everything in an instant. Right when you think that you have it all together, you're in the illusion that you have it all together, such as the present economy, such as the present 2020. This is my year. There's like people were hyping on 2020. So right where we're in that place, you think you have control. Boom. Economy just gets brought to its knees in a really fascinating way, and people are have this contagious panic that's spreading throughout the system, and it's very, very fascinating to watch. And so I think the lesson in all of this is, can we start to use this as almost like a tool,
like we're in a gym, we're exercising right now, and I can choose the channel that I perceive the world through, no matter what is happening outside of me. That's not to say that we ought not take action on a situation, and we should just live.
This, what he said, you can change your perspective to the thing that's happening to you, but you cannot actually change what's happening, And in Man's Search for Meaning, this person, he was in concentration camps, that is that Nazi stuff. They're burning people, killing people, gassing people, stuff like that. And he realized, I cannot change this, but I can change my perspective of this. But I have no control over the environment. And this is a very, very powerful. This is a very, very powerful way to think life. And this is something I've seen consistently in other self-help books too. And this really, really resonated with me. That's it for this video. I hope you like it. Click that bell icon, thumbs up, and hey, comment below. Do you like this kind of videos? If you do, let me know what aspect of it you liked, didn't like, and I would love to read your feedback. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.